Hello, resident filler video fan here, and yeah, I'm making another Persona 5 video. I need to stop! Today, we're going to be analyzing the hottest character in Persona 5, Yusuke. Yusuke is an artist and the pupil of Madarame, and he goes through a lot of suffering throughout Persona 5, and also gets a solid confidant that builds on his character. So, in order to honor his absolute supreme beauty, we're going to be analyzing him. Let's get to it. At a very young age, Yusuke found an interest in art. His mother was also an extremely talented artist, who went on to draw the Mona Lisa, my bad, the Sayuri, a beautiful painting of her with Yusuke. But unfortunately, she suffered a stroke right next to Madarame. Now, any normal human being would have looked at her for a couple of seconds and let her die. Which is exactly what Madarame did. Madarame, knowing that he could claim the Sayuri for himself, let her die in front of him and reap the benefits of her death, becoming a rich, famous artist, forever stained by his greediness. Now Madarame took in Yusuke as a pupil, and would raise him to become a man, mainly to keep his public image as a humble teacher, but also because he does have a little bit of a heart. Yusuke would grow into a wonderful and talented artist as the years went by. However, Yusuke would start to watch all of his fellow pupils leave or game end themselves. This is because Madarame was using them to make artwork for him because of his artist block. And of course, Yusuke believed this lie. Now thankfully, the Phantom Thieves would catch on to Madarame, while Yusuke would learn the truth on his caretaker. Still, throughout the game, he still holds some respect for Madarame, for taking care of him and teaching him. However, Yusuke understands that Madarame was corrupted and greedy, and promises to make art for expression and not for money and greed. Now, I believe that Yusuke gets solid build-up. The writers put Madarame to the backside and mainly use him to build up Yusuke's character, which works here. It's interesting to see his perspective on Madarame and also the Phantom Thieves. Yusuke initially opposes the Phantom Thieves because he just can't believe that Madarame is a horrible person, but when he starts to learn more about Madarame, he warms up to them and becomes a member. Overall, Yusuke comes off as a unique and interesting character who gets a lot of development early on. Yeah, Yusuke falls victim to the same problem many main characters fall to in Persona 5. A lack of anything to do with the main story outside of their confidant. Like I mentioned in my Haru video, unless the character has a specific role to fill in the Phantom Thieves, they just don't get to do anything. Like, look at Makoto. She gets a lot of screen time and material because she is like the co-leader of the Phantom Thieves. But Yusuke, he's just extra firepower. But firepower is something that Ryuji kind of takes over, or Joker himself. Now, Yusuke is introduced way earlier than Haru, so it's not as big of an issue. But still, I feel like they could have had so much with Yusuke, but they leave him just to be a background character rather than the foreground. Overall, once the Madarame arc is over, Yusuke doesn't really affect anything. He has no correlations with any of the main villains, and doesn't even really say anything during many discussions. He just kind of talks about, I don't know, art. It gets a little repetitive. However, Yusuke, outside the main story, gets a confidant. So let's check that out. Yusuke's confidant is mainly about Yusuke's artist block. After what happened to Madarame, it seems like Yusuke has fallen into a block where he can't seem to make art that he truly wants to make. However, one day he gains an idea of a painting, one about the twisted desire of humanity. But the painting seems to lack something, and even Yusuke knows it. A professional artist sees it and criticizes it right in front of Yusuke. At first, Yusuke is offended by it, but ultimately accepts the critique. He still doesn't know how to gain back his passion, so he asks Joker for help, and that's when they form their deal. After some time, the professional offers Yusuke an opportunity to join his organization. However, he then starts saying that art is purely for money and other greedy and materialistic things. This, of course, pisses off Yusuke. But this triggers something in Yusuke, and Yusuke finally gains back his passion for painting. He paints his desire painting again, but this time adds a little hope to it. The professional then reveals that he did his whole greed act on purpose to spark something in Yusuke, and reoffers him the opportunity. But Yusuke, being the Chad that he is, denies it, wanting to be free and pursue his own visions, not being held back by anybody higher than him. Overall, it's a good-ass confidant. Fleshes out his personality and continues his character arc. So yeah, good job, Atlas. Now, how good is Yusuke when a gun is pointed at his head? To answer the question, very good. Yusuke is a glass cannon who specializes in physical damage and critical hits. Think of Yusuke as a less tanky Ryuji who can absolutely destroy enemies if you baton pass to him. Yusuke is much more agile than Ryuji, which allows him to get a lot more cheesy dodges. Yusuke's support skills, however, are pretty garbage. Raising evasion and accuracy isn't valuable enough to waste a turn on, and he doesn't really get much else other than that. But still, Yusuke's skills, like Rising Slash, are very useful as they can do heavy damage and get increased damage from baton passing. In fact, Yusuke is basically baton pass the character, because he just does so much damage if you do baton pass him due to these skills. Yusuke is a wrecking force that can dish out crazy amounts of damage if you play your cards right. And that wraps up Yusuke. Kasumi should be the next character I analyze, but for now, suck my penis.